Hello everyone, hi. It's me, the usual. But yeah, as I said, we'll just preface it. We'll do this already, but as I said, today's going to be a bit more of a serious stream than our normal affair. I'm joined today, by Aiden who's in the chat, and we'll have him on mic here real
Just
soon.
like the simulation.
But we're gonna be going through their game, The Drowning Machine. I've never played this game. I've only opened it to see if it works. It's a very emotionally charged game, and I'll have Aiden do a lot more of the talking on it. Because, you know, it's not mine. So why not let the creator say more things about it? But yeah, I hope everyone is having a good day. And yeah, we'll get in on this, yeah? I'm just gonna fade this out. And we'll get Aiden here, yeah? Alrighty. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good.
Good.
Welcome to this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
Mm-hmm. Nah, so I mean, I know what the Drowning Machine is.
Mhm.
But if you wouldn't mind, just sort of, I guess, giving a quick rundown on what it is. I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So, wow, that's like a kind of a long story. So, I started working on a game with a friend of mine. He and I were we went to high school together. We were both really big fans of like indie horror. This was before I really, this is right around the time I started making games, so it was just a couple of years ago. But he and I started working on a horror game together about some like traumatic things that he had been through, and he had some like poetry he wanted to share, and we wanted to make a game together. Um, and tragically, I'm gonna put up a content warning here. He actually passed away in February of 2019. He took his own life, and I was kind of left with a collection of just like fragments of what was left of that game. And I don't know if he knew like what he was saying at the time or if he was just kind of joking around, but a couple months before he passed away, he um made a joke about if something bad happens to one of us, the other one has to finish the game. So I'm kind of doing what I can to take what I have of his design and like what he wanted in terms of the game in order to kind of put together his vision the best that I can. But so what it's kind of gone from is a game by him to a game about him. So it's kind of an exploration of what it was like in the time leading up to and the time after he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
It's largely like kind of told out of order. The release order and the actual chronological order are not going to be the same. So what you're going to see a lot of is kind of the aftermath where so you have movements 6, 4, and 3. I'm currently in the process of making movement 1, which is kind of the beginning of the story and talks a little bit about like the signs that something bad was coming, where this was much more about like, you know, grief and kind of feeling bad in the wake of like everything that happened. So I figured it would be cool for me to come out here and kind of give you guys some more context for like what you're seeing. It's a little bit, it's very surreal, so I thought that it might be nice for me to come in and give Jay and all of y'all some context for what's going on.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I'm really glad you could join. Funnily
Absolutely.
enough, I was talking to another co-host of mine and a good friend. We were in the middle of a stream, and we were specifically drinking and playing Mass Effect, and I remember being like, it would be really, I was talking about things that hadn't happened that I had talked about yet, and I'm like, well, I was supposed to do the Drowning Machine a long time ago, but I put it off for mental reasons, and and then I went on this drunken rant on, man, I should really get him on here with me, and I was not 100% sober. When I ask you to come on,
Yeah,
I'll be
it'd be
fully
like
honest.
that.
Yeah,
I get you. I get you.
but uh,
The best ideas happen absolutely blasted in the shower at 3 in the morning sometimes. So
sometimes they
that's
happen midstream. Well, like right after I told a stupid joke about I don't know alien dick. It
there you go.
so it's no. I'm really glad that you joined in on this harebrained idea I had.
Totally. Yeah. No. I remember specifically when the disc came out that I really wish I'd kind of been able to give a little bit more context and I had fleshed things out a little bit better from a storytelling perspective because a lot of people actually played through the demo thinking that this was a fictional story and that like this wasn't like based on because you have the read before playing that gives us a lot of context for like what's going on, but a lot of people were just like, oh, I'll just play the demo. It's just a horror game, right?
Mm,
And then they kind of got themselves into a little bit more than they were expecting. I've had a lot of streamers just like need to stop, like turn off their face cam and need to stop playing like a couple minutes in. So
gotcha.
um, yeah, no, but it's nice to just like kind of be able to come out here and like a little bit after the demo disc has come out now that like my thoughts are collected and everything to just kind of like tell y'all what's up and like give the full story and
Hmm.
yeah, and maybe like talk about the way that it's like made people feel. And if you have any thoughts, like I'd love to like discuss that.
Oh, absolutely. I figure we'll have this sort of talk before we get into things, and then I probably have a little bit of a talk afterwards of thoughts and etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, it definitely seems to be one of those games that like people stream and then they kind of just like do a big deep breath and then talk about it for like 20 minutes. So I'm more than happy to stick around for that
yeah,
if you or anybody in the audience have any questions.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, we may as well get into the read before playing at the very least.
Mhm.
But
I think you're. Oh yeah, I was gonna say I think you're still on the idle screen, but I guess
yeah,
it was a little behind.
yep, I got it.
Nope.
All right. Uh, I'll read this out if that's all
Go
right.
for it.
All
Yeah, go
right.
for it. Go for it.
I feel it's important to warn you of exactly what you're about to see. As it has been incredibly painful to work on, I feel this message is one that needs to be heard. In February of 2019, Aiden's best friend Charlie took his own life. He was a brother to Aiden, and as much as he was a friend. A few months before his passing, he and Aiden had begun to work on a game together, a project he loved dearly. What you're about to see is the closest he will ever come to his original vision, wrapped in his own experience, mourning his loss. The Drowning Machine is a testament to his life and creativity, and the real, unfiltered experience of losing a loved one to suicide. Aiden has attempted to start this project a number of times, under different names and perspectives, but this has been the only way this feels right. Before he passed, he insisted that if anything bad ever happened to one of us, the other had to finish the game. Profit from the Drowning Machine will be donated to a trans lifeline in Charlie's honor. Alright.
Yeah, for those of you who tuned in late, this game is very intense and really doesn't pull punches.
Mm-hmm.
It's very very dark, but I really did want to create something that like was honest rather than comfortable. So I hope that I accomplished that. But yeah,
Absolutely.
so I would recommend starting with movement 6. The general intended order is going to be like 6, 4, 3, 1, 2, 5.
Okay.
Just because there's like certain stuff that's like intentionally left vague to like kind of allow people to get the experience in the most effective way. But
Yeah, let it
movement 1 is currently in the works.
Okay.
It should be hopefully released around the end of this month. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I guess there's no time like the present.
Good luck.
Alright, so you said 6 first?
6 is generally a good spot to start. Yeah.
Okay.
So for a little bit of context, I actually made this first segment in 3 hours. I had done the shader test ahead of time, like the visuals for the game existed ahead of time, but what you're about to see in terms of the set, the gameplay, the narrative, all that was created in a very manic episode after work on Friday one week, and it's all kind of come from there. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so
All right.
but,
Well, all right. A quick disclaimer.
yeah.
Movement 6, Eulogy, and all other excerpts from The Drowning Machine contain heavy reference to real death, suicide, self-harm, and suicidal ideation. Another of other dark themes. If you are sensitive to any of the above material, please tread carefully. The Drowning Machine is a true story.
Yeah, it was really interesting for me creating this game because I knew I wanted to do something like kind of expressionistic rather than kind of leaning into traditional horror elements.
Yeah.
I don't tend to. I like storytelling more than I like structuring scares and things like that. So I wanted to create something that wasn't necessarily like something pops out and scares you, but kind of had the same did the same thing in kind of like an emotional way.
Yeah.
So there's very little like traditional like horror like boo jump scare kind of stuff in this game. It's much more focused on like the meta horror of like all of this happening.
The psychological side of it, right?
Exactly, yeah. And the ways that like kind of going through these things just like the way that I originally intended for this was to depict the way that the nightmares that I had, like the way that these memories feel, rather than the kind of more literal side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it kind of leans into like the expressionistic territory, but it's weird for me because it's like I don't know too many other horror games that just focus on the story with this little outside of atmosphere to kind of drive them. So
yeah,
I thought it was something to experiment with, and I hope it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare to see when the story is the horrifying thing.
Exactly.
And the horrifying thing.
Yeah. Exactly. There's like no monsters or anything. It's just it's just kind of you alone with your thoughts. It's why it's another part of the reason that there's like nobody here.
Yeah.
I don't remember these things for like the people that I was around when they happened. I just kind of remember like flashes of just like walking down the street, scared to walk in the door at the funeral home just because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And the line at the beginning, the makeup artist thing in the main menu was actually reference to another funeral I had been to where the mortician had not done the best job with the makeup, and I think I was 19 at the time, and I did not handle it well. It really screwed with me when I was like, he was my friend who passed away was very young. I was very young, and it was I was a real mess. So I trying to go through that a second time was definitely a little rough.
Absolutely.
By the way, a lot of people have asked me about the cliffs. The initial intent with that was essentially to create a really dramatic edge to the space and create a place that is just like there's nothing outside of that. None of it is relevant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of like, there's nothing else here. It's not like there's nothing to look for meaning in. It's just a place.
Yeah. That's the end of the thought.
Exactly. It's there's nothing relevant in the memory past that.
Yeah.
These are also any notes you see, like poetry you see in the notes, is all written by Charlie. He gave it to me to use in the game before he passed away.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah.
All right. I'll read it out. The lingering, persistent cough sounds like too long of a drag. Tastes like ragged purging. Feels like silent, exhaling screaming. The angry subconscious itching whispers like a spot of rust, screams like the snap of a flame, cries like synthetic rubber. The floating, violent lightness snags like a human desert, grips like gnashing teeth, pulls like the 30th empty hour. The frustrated, helpless weight sinks like sunlight through the blinds, rots like the bare minimum, hates like the dark gray at the end.
Yeah. So this was, like I said, this whole thing was built in 3 hours, so it's a little bit threadbare, but
Yeah.
this was kind of the way that he wanted to present things. Actually, initially, interestingly, there was going to be an NPC character that wandered around each one of the stages with a lantern, um, and anything the light fell on was going to be in color, and there
Oh,
would be like spots that you would be able to discover new things, um, but like only when the light was shining on them. But
gotcha,
I ended up nixing that just because I'm terrible at 3D modeling and AI and Unreal. So
gotcha.
maybe for a future installment, we'll see.
I mean, it sounds like a really cool idea.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the bit that I'm gonna turn my volume off for a second. This just like it's like weird for me to hear, if that makes
Today I'm
sense.
here in front of you to read words I was hoping I'd never have to write. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get through them, but for his sake I damn well have to try. These words might be rough for some, but I promised him I'd say them. Monday morning, I woke up to the news I had been praying not to hear the night before. Charlie Schultz, the brightest star in my life, had passed away. I spent several days convinced this was all a bad dream I'd wake up from with a hole torn in my heart, but sadly I've had no such luck. I've spent several days trying to find a singular event, some defining moment in my friendship with him that could capture everything he meant to me, but no single experience with him could ever show you what it was like to have him in your life. No words could ever encompass the boundless creativity and artistry of the things he created. No words could ever explain the endless late nights and inside jokes and philosophical conversation, the laughter, the tears. No words could ever encompass the bottomless support and love he had for the people he cared about. Though he may not have seen it himself, Charlie was a warrior. The fears and burdens and sorrow he experienced in his life would crush even the strongest among us. Charlie held the weight of the world on his shoulders, but if you so much as frowned within a mile of him, he wouldn't hesitate for a single second to drop everything he was doing to come to your rescue. Charlie may not have known it, but he was our rock, and we did all we could to be his. But pain is incomprehensible, and his fight has ended. So in honor of his fight and the joy he brought into our lives, I ask all of you only one thing. Today let us bury the body of the daughter, granddaughter, niece, and sister who never quite was. Let us lay to rest his fears and pain and regret. Let us mourn the parts of him that never were. And let us remember and rejoice in the light of the son, grandson, brother, and friend Charlie truly was. His dry wit and boundless creativity, the good times and the bad. Let us remember the warrior, inspiration, and absolute gem of a human being that is Charlie Schultz, because a little bit of that man lives on inside each and every one of us. Rest in peace, kiddo. I'm so proud to have called you my friend.
All right, I my volume is back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, so that passage was something I wrote in the shower actually a couple days before Charlie's funeral. I was
Mhm.
asked to speak and I really didn't know what to say at the time.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so that's a recording of that.
yeah.
Um, did you have anything you wanted to say before I kind of get into it a little bit or?
Uh, that, I mean, if you wanted to make an emotionally charged game, you've definitely done it already, right out the gate.
I'm glad to hear that.
I don't have much to say other than I'm definitely I'm definitely feeling it.
Yeah.
It's no when you uh, when you hear because I never knew Charlie.
Mhm.
Um, but it's all the same when you hear
Watch those wrist rockets!
the final, or not, I don't know, one of the, maybe some of what could be the final shared thoughts of someone. It's not a small thing.
Mm.
So hearing that, yeah, it means something, you know? Anyway, I'll allow you to bring more context.
Oh yeah. So I just wanted to talk. It's just kind of going off of what you were talking about. I kind of wanted to like talk about my intent a little bit with this game, just because I feel like when I talk about this, it's a little bit like it's hard to kind of for me to kind of enunciate like how I feel about it, and this like the way that I've been working on it and like what it is, because I don't really think of it as a game per se. I think I kind of just see it as a way to vent my feelings and kind of come to terms with the trauma of what happened. But like, I really wanted to create something that, because I think that one of the biggest hurdles for people coming like trying to understand what it's like not only to be a part of the LGBT community where losses like this are so common,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's even if you were to understand like what it's like, if even if you have lost someone, it's there's something different about it when it happens. It's like it's really sad to say, but the trans suicide rate is so high, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
the suicide of a cis het person and the same for a trans person. It's just different somehow. And I'm grateful to say that I'm sure a lot of folks haven't been this close to something like this, but what I wanted to do was create something that felt that to like show people what it's like to um allow people a window into this kind of experience and the nuances of it and things like that, and like try and help somebody who's going through the same, or who is um who's either struggling with themselves or has lost someone recently. I just wanted to create something to show other people that there is more after this, and that you will be missed, and that it's something that you can never understand until you've been through it. But I just wanted to allow people to be more empathetic.
Absolutely.
um I was really inspired by um like What Remains of Edith Finch. I feel like resonated really heavily with me, as a piece of narrative that kind of winds all over the place and is approaches grief in a kind of accessible way.
Yeah.
And also games like That Dragon Cancer, where again it's kind of more of a fictionalization of the emotions related to the experience than the experience itself.
Gotcha.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just kind of wanted this to be a window to window into like the experience, and kind of hope that it helps some people, which apparently it has. I've gotten so many incredible messages. I just like wanted to thank everybody who's played it for the support that I've gotten so far, and the letters that people have written me have been absolutely flooring, and they 100% keep me going with this project, 'cause it's really really hard to work on.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, no doubt. It's like I'm exceedingly lucky, and I know that I am in the fact that I have not lost someone that I feel close to.
mhm,
Um, I and I know that, the other shoe has to drop eventually.
yeah, but
But
I'm
uh
hoping that this is like the pre-shoe drop experience that people need to be either prepared, or hopefully even change an outcome somewhere.
yeah.
um
I'm yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, like I said, it's hard to talk about. It's
well,
like even I have trouble talking about it sometimes.
yeah, and
Just
I
like,
mean, even if even if you claim, I claim to be comfortable with the concept of death, right? It is a thing that happens, uh, for everyone.
mhm,
Everyone's end is there somewhere,
mhm,
and that's what makes life worth living,
Mhm.
in my opinion. And even as ready as I feel to talk about things like passing and death and, all these things, I don't think I can ever know until I get to that point. And
Mhm.
it's pieces like this that, sure, it's not the thing, but it gives you a, a glimpse on the inside of
Mhm.
what may be.
Yeah, and that was that again. Like that was really my intent. Is I want to demystify and hopefully to some extent de-romanticize the idea of like losing people and like I remember growing up. I don't know if this is like an everybody experience, but like as a member of the LGBT community growing up, everybody was just like, oh haha, I'm not going to live to 25, haha.
Yeah,
Like to the point where it just kind of became commonplace to just like
as
joke about our own deaths.
yeah, I mean,
um
as also a part of it, yeah, I've also experienced that.
Yeah, but I feel
Um,
like a lot of people don't, it's just a way to cope with like the atrocities of just existing quote unquote wrong and not
yeah,
being normal. Um, and I'm hoping that to some extent, the project is able to demystify and de-romanticize the idea of like dying young and like having everybody remember you as, oh, they died too young and this could have been avoided. And it's like, yeah, it can be avoided and you should try. It's
yeah, it's
it's
meant
important.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to say, don't feel obligated to stay here.
Yeah, yeah, I
If
was
you're
actually just
feeling
typing that up.
overwhelmed, like if you're overwhelmed,
Yeah.
don't stay.
Yeah, I
Like,
really probably should have given a bigger disclaimer at the beginning of the stream, but
I
it is
mean, I've
very,
all,
very
I
intense.
mean, I've also been saying it every time I've talked about this upcoming stream.
Mhm.
And so, but mornings are sometimes missed, or I'm not the center
Yeah,
of
of course.
everyone's life. So, but again, now that we have more people here, please, this is this treads on quite a bit, uh,
Mhm.
revolving around death and suicide.
Yeah. I will
Um,
say I think that this ending part right here, like what got us talking, this is the point where everybody needs to turn their face cam off and starts talking about like like just has the deep conversation. So it should be a little less intense from here on out, but it does, continue to kind of approach the subject matter.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's no small thing, and the fact that it that no punches were pulled here.
Yeah, I specifically like felt like I needed to not pull punches just so that I could, show people what it's like. There's no good way to approach a topic like this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
100%.
yeah.
It's
Somebody in the Machi suggested that you might want to put a text box CW or like content warning up on like the screen somewhere.
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Let me get that up real quick. In the meantime, I'm just gonna
Yeah. Oh
uh
yeah. While you do that, I can probably talk a little bit about like what's coming for the project.
mhm.
I'm actually in my last week at my current job, and I'm gonna have around 2 weeks before I start work as a professional game developer. Um, but I'm gonna have a couple of weeks to work, and I'm gonna commit as much time as I can to Movement One Reverie, which is the next part that's going to be released. It's going to be much more focused on traditional horror. You're going to see a lot more what you traditionally consider scary, where these ones are focused largely on grief and kind of regret. That one's going to be focused largely on anger and spite and like the things that cause these kinds of problems and the background of all of this. It's going to be a lot like more traditionally scary. It's going to be a lot different than the like than the past three parts. And I think they're probably just going to get weirder from here, to be
Mhm.
perfectly honest. It's going to be a lot more of the surrealist elements that you're going to see in future releases. So I'm hoping that the shift isn't too jarring and that everybody
I
is
mean,
able to get as much out of it.
I mean,
I'm really nervous.
yeah, but I mean, death is weird.
Yeah,
Everyone reacts differently.
yeah.
Uh,
It's interesting. I find myself falling down this kind of. I'm not sure if any of you have ever listened to Everywhere at the End of Time. It's a 6.5 hour album about the process of degenerative dementia.
mhm.
Um, but so you hear what starts out as very clearly being music, and by the end, it's practically just you know the screams of a vinyl record warping and static and barely comprehensible as something that could even be like human noises. And I that's kind of the that's kind of the way that this is progressing, is it's just becoming more and more surreal
I mean,
and what's the word,
abstract.
yeah, abstract, but like in a expressionistic kind of way. It's
Oh,
it's it's becoming surreal,
yeah.
uh and I just hope that it's not too oh, hold on, it's caretaker.
Crap. I should probably also finish typing up this list. So death, suicide. I believe you said the ideation of death was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I would just talk about like strong negative emotions maybe. But yeah, I would definitely go into that album making sure that you're like in a good place mentally, because I still have nightmares about parts of that album. Weirdly, like I'll just be having a nightmare, and it'll the soundtrack to that nightmare is just something from Everywhere at the End of Time. So
Gotcha.
definitely approach with caution. It's very, very intense. Same thing with the disintegration loops, which are a similar concept. Also very, very good if you like ambient music. So but yeah, there's movements 1, 2, and 5 are all in the works. One should be done relatively soon. Hopefully, there's like I said, there's a lot more content to it than any of the previous movements. But yeah, it's gonna be very different, and I hope that it resonates with people the way the first half has. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, oh, you're gonna need
Oop.
to when you're ready to move on to the next movement, you have
Mhm.
to pause and manually exit.
Gotcha. All right. Oh,
Yeah, there you go. So,
gotcha.
but yeah. So, the second movement 4, is was the first one that I kind of took my time with.
Uh-huh.
This is actually based on a real location. Fun fact: if any of you, on the off chance that anybody went to Rutgers, this is a memory I have from the train station on College Avenue campus.
Nice. I'm
Uh,
gonna. Sorry, I gotta adjust a thing here because it's
no
color
problem.
that is white and it's hard to see. So I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
I need to do a little bit of redesign on this menu. It's very it's not super accessible, so apologies.
just go for.
Oh, Great Crow, you've been there. That's small world. You might recognize it. It's like you walk the basically I Wanderlust takes place almost immediately after I got the phone call to when I found out that my friend had passed away. And it was like I kind of just wandered out of my dorm and into the snow. I didn't have a jacket on or anything, and I just kind of just wandered around for a while, and I remember kind of just snapping back to consciousness after getting kicked out of the Rutgers bookstore on College Ave because I was like freaking people out. Just because I was just like not even really there, just kind of wandering around, and I was like, in the snow in a t-shirt,
Yeah.
and so this kind of takes place right after I like came to and was like came out of that dissociative state.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the aftermath of that. So.
Also, before we move on, I saw Gray mention, and I completely forgot to bring it up, the imagery of giving a eulogy to an empty church.
Yeah, that was like I said, that was actually kind of a side effect of the fact that I'm just like really bad at AI programming. But I realized in retrospect that that was probably like way more potent of a metaphor than I could have really worked in with any of the kind of creatures that I had planned.
Mhm.
And like I said, this is, all of these movements are subject to change. I'll probably go in and add secrets and things like that because it can be played in any order. So I thought it might be cool in future releases to have things that only show up if you've finished other movements.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's something to look forward to. I'm really attached to that idea. I think it might be kind of interesting. Oh, Great Crow, Small World. That's awesome. I was born and raised in Bridgewater, so I just moved to Texas recently. I live in Austin now.
Yeah. And Gray, he. Sorry, I'm gonna completely sidetrack if that's all right.
No, it's all good.
So he ran a D&D thing for me, and
That's awesome.
it was horror based. Horror tabletop is actually something I've sort of been getting into.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool stuff.
But he actually had a really cool one that was the Town Time Forgot. And I've talked about it before, but in short, it was high schoolers going into this town that was abandoned, and the stuff about the occult and just things that don't make sense, etc. sort of happened.
Yeah.
It was a more not psychological horror most of the time, more visceral, but
yeah, for sure.
But I mean, like the same feeling of just being alone and abandoned was present in that, I guess, in a sense.
For sure. Yeah, it's something that I like to kind of refer to as architectural horror.
Yeah.
It's a lot of what I was going for with this game, where it's like you're in a place that feels so wrong that you feel like the buildings even are just going to like swallow you up, and that there's just like you're going to see a lot more of it in Movement 2 in particular, but I want to create a sense that like the actual thing that you should be afraid of is the walls itself. Essentially, is there's something evil inside the floor.
Yeah.
And that the building could swallow you up at any time.
Okay.
I think I've been to Wallpack once or twice. Yeah. Like where in New Jersey is that? Is it up north, down south? I live kind of pretty much smack in the middle, so. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of architectural horror. Movement 2 in particular is going to be very heavy in that department, and then Movement 5 is again going to be a huge departure from like like the rest of all of the movements actually. So I'm really excited to work all that out and see how people feel about it. But
absolutely, I mean, it's like that sort of stuff is just really cool to me, though. It's not. A lot of traditional horror is, it's something chasing you down. It's, it's gore, it's loud noises, it's surprises. But this is a very real horror. It's not personified in a monster. It's not out to get you. It just exists.
Yeah. And that's not to say that like there won't be some of that in the future. I really do like the idea of personifying things, but
yeah,
for these ones in particular, I really wanted it to feel very empty.
Yeah,
very very solipsistic and just because of the nature of like my experience at the time. But Movement 1 in particular was where these are kind of empty horror reverie. Like in my memory feels like just like a clusterfuck. You're stuck in a room that's too loud, waiting for somebody to get out of the bathroom, and everybody's yelling, and like basically the feeling of when your friend's parents are fighting at the dinner table when you're over for dinner, and you just like can't get up, you can't move, you can't leave. That's what Movement 1 is meant to feel like. So it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a very different experience, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, so next up is Wanderlust, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let's go for it.
I just don't want to ramble for like too long.
No, the point of this was very much for like I very much wanted uh to get the insight that you have, because
Yeah.
it's what you're making here is nothing short of, you know, I mean, amazing, but
Thank you. I
horrifying.
really appreciate that. Yeah,
It's amazing and horrifying, because it is, you are trying to take this concept, this, you know, the concept of loss and death and grief, and you're putting it into a medium in which we can interact with it.
Yeah,
And that's
and-
not a small feat.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's interesting for me. That was actually one of the things that really worried me at first was just the way that people perceive of like games conceptually.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted like it's very important to me that the kind of wall of games are for fun. Like I think that that's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Somebody asked what engine this was made in. It was actually made in Unreal. I wrote a custom shader to make it look like this. It's very hard to make Unreal not look like an amazing, like beautiful landscape, you know, with like bounce lighting and all that stuff. But it is it's essentially just like colored based on how far it is from the camera, and then there's some pixelation over that. But yeah, it's made in Unreal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm actually a pro Unreal developer now, so
Yeah, no, that's
can't
cool.
wait.
Hell yeah.
Can't wait. So excited. It's gonna be awesome.
Alright.
Anyway, yeah.
Let's
so
dig
let's,
in.
yeah. Yeah, it sure is. It's really really complicated, but I'm glad. I'm happy with what it came out looking like. Honestly.
Oh
So-
yeah, so this is. Oh yeah. So that was okay.
So this one I had a little bit more time with. I think this one took me like 2 weeks ish.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and this one was. I think this is like. I mean, Movement 1 is obviously the one I've spent the most time on because I released this back in. Released the first one back in November.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. So this one's the first one that I really got to like take my time with and kind of build an environment that wasn't just like a street.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to try and do some interesting things with the geometry. But yeah, so this is this. Like I said, this is kind of representative of the way that I remember things from this period of time. It's just very lonely and dark and I wasn't. I tried to eliminate as much detail as I could while just like leaving the form intact, I guess is a good way to explain it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's also I don't think there's been one so far outside of that speech, but there are actually elements of meta horror in this game.
Mhm.
I'm working in a lot of real world media to try and give people more context.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always forget about that is
Yeah.
the one jump scare. I apologize.
Nah, I mean it's real.
Yeah,
It's, you know,
just
like that.
wandering around.
Hell, it like, I mean that's fitting. It's because, you know, this is about wandering aimlessly. You don't, you know, from what I understand, it is, you know, you don't really know where to go at this point.
Exactly.
So,
Oh,
and having that snap you back into reality is that was a good touch.
thank you. Fun fact, actually, and this was something that was really important to me while I was working into this. It was initially releasing these as individual segments. Like you like each level would be an individual EXE, and I had to change that up for the demo disc. But initially, when you would when your character would die, I guess is the best way to explain it. If you hopped off the cliff, for example, or if you actually I sped up the train, but you used to actually be able to get hit by it.
Ah,
But so when you would get hit by the train, the game would just crash.
gotcha.
And it would just crash the desktop because I just really I didn't know. Oh, you know, it crashed the desktop and it actually opened up a link to a suicide hotline. That actually still opens if you get hit by the train because, you know, I figured the people who are trying to make those things happen probably need a little bit of help. But
Yeah.
I as of movement 1, there's going to be a like an actual mechanic for player death, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. But yeah, it's this one was interesting to work on. But once I kind of put it in compilation form like this for the Haunted PS1 demo disc, it changed, and I kind of didn't really think about it that much at the time. But yeah, I have something really big planned for the full release, or the next release, I guess I should say. There's going to be a lot more involved process for dying.
Yeah.
So I just like it was, again, it's one of those, how do you really approach that kind of thing in a game this serious?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to. It's, you're trying to approach this concept, death. Nobody knows, I mean, I've said it a million times already, but it's how do you say it,
Yeah, there's sometimes there is no way to say it. You kind of just need to like either look away or just stare at it until something makes sense. I specifically like it's interesting from it because I guess I don't know if this is a little bit of a spoiler, but interestingly enough, there's going to be narrative elements in the next one that kind of play into that idea of just like trying to find meaning in something like this where there really isn't anything to gain from like dwelling on it, if that makes sense, where it's like,
yeah,
sometimes death is just a shitty thing that happens.
Yeah, it's a part of life, and
exactly.
We all have to live through it.
Yeah, everybody wants it to mean something because it's so much harder to deal with if you don't know why, or you can't like make sense of it, and sometimes there's just nothing to be made sense of. It's just what happens,
Yeah. Pulling my gums, baring my teeth, a fish on a hook, a deer in the headlights, being born, being used, being dead. Pinching the candles, kissing the flame, the ecstatic birthday boy. The compliant hospital patient, it's there, it's not, it's gone. Making a mess, spitting it out, a tangle of yarn, a selfish little toddler. They come, they promise, they leave.
Just an interesting tidbit. That QR code is actually scannable. It takes you to Charlie's cosplay Instagram page.
Oh.
He was a cosplayer, and one of the last posts that he ever made was the last time I saw him, which was KatsuCon of 2019. And that's actually interesting. Is what Movement 2 is about. Is like the it's really hard to explain, but there was a lot of like kind of backstabby shit and like spiteful behavior that was going on between a lot of people back then, and I didn't realize how much I would regret it almost instantly after. So that's a lot of what a lot of Movement 2 is going to be about in particular.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so there's been some really beautiful comments that have been left on his most recent post, which was I believe he was cosplaying Punk Shrek. Everybody at the con loved it.
Yeah, I opened it up, and that seemed to be the case.
Yeah, people have left some really amazing messages, and I feel like I should kind of just mention it, but on the main menu there's a link that's just titled Letters to the Wanderer.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give people like an option to kind of put a little bit of themselves into this project and like leave their mark on it and say, hey, I'm still here. So anybody who writes in a letter to this Google form, I'm planning on having a showcase of all of them in one place in Movement 5 in particular. So if you would like to.
Yeah, I saw it, and I decided I was going to wait until after this.
Yeah.
Once I'm off air, everything, to
sure.
write that.
Yeah. and I've gotten some really like amazing, just like people who have really like, bared their souls about it and talked about like, how deeply the game affected them, and that just like means the world to me, honestly.
Yeah.
Just like, the impact this game has already had on people. I didn't even know it was going to get this far, and the fact that it was included with the demo disc and that people have like felt so strongly about it really does mean the world to me. So I just want to like kind of reiterate how grateful I am for the support so far. It's been really hard to work on, and that's made it a lot easier for me. It's just knowing that it's helping. So.
Ah, man, it's well earned.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
But
Yeah, so that was movement 4. That was I would say probably 2-3 hours after I got the call that he had passed away, and movement 3, which is the last currently playable movement, was like the time leading up to that phone call. So this is the last, the beginning of the end, if you will. This is around the time that Charlie passed away.
gotcha.
It's there's going to be some more context for that in movement 2 as well. Just that's going to cover the stuff between, the background of like why this all happened up to around the time he passed away, because this kind of all happened after. There was a line explaining it in movement 4, but he had actually passed away a couple of days before he was found. He had a room to himself at TCNJ.
Gotcha.
And he sent a weird Snapchat on Friday, and then we lost contact with him, and the RAs weren't able to get permission to go check on him until I think that Monday, very early in the morning, and it was so this is that kind of that Friday to early Monday was like us trying to find him.
Gotcha.
So that's what this is. I'm probably gonna do some sort of. I'm probably gonna work in like a thing in the next build to like give a little bit more of a timeline and kind of explain that a little better. Thank you, Proven Destroyer. I really appreciate that. I'm very, very happy with this game aesthetically. I think.
Yeah,
I mean, it's my favorite thing I've made in terms of that.
Yeah, no, it looks really good. It's haunting.
Thank you.
But yeah.
Like I said, I wanted to go for and it's funny. It actually started out as a technical limitation because everything in this game up until the release of Movement 1 has actually been made with asset store assets. This is all this is actually made from the same models as most like Voodoo mobile games, just with a shader thrown on top of them, and no one can tell. I am so pleased that nobody's been like, oh, these are all asset store models, and like it's not like a criticism or anything. It's funny to me that no one's noticed.
Yeah, I mean, it's the stylization that really brings it out. Or really, yeah.
So I'm crap at 3D modeling. Don't let anybody tell you can't make video games. I don't know. I think it's really important that like people like make stuff and really express themselves. It's honestly kind of saved my life. Having this outlet has been really incredible for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah. What's up?
I was gonna say outlets. They're really important. I think I've talked about it before on stream, but when I started streaming 2019 to now, I'm a much different person. I'm a lot different in the sense of I've grown because I've been able to it's been an outlet for me. I've been able to do things and go from in a shell to be able to do the weird things, and it's a lot more lighthearted in my sense. I was able to express me,
For sure. Yeah.
but the outlet still stands true. Right.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, and I think that's one of the interesting things. I've talked to a lot of folks about their experience with the game, and like they're not really knowing what to like go into it expecting, and then they talk to me and they're like, wow, like having no context for you outside of this game, like I had no idea that what you were going to be like, and I feel like my personality and like my work are like very very different.
Hmm.
And I'm more than happy to like talk seriously with like anybody who wants to talk about the game or talk about anything. But like, I'm generally just like a really goofy person, so
Yeah.
it's apparently been really jarring for a lot of people to like talk to me and have me just be like making fart jokes all over the place.
Hell yeah. I mean, no, I get it. This is much different than what I normally do, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, that's part of the thing, you know. You like, even for example, I mean, what I am on stream versus what I am in person is different. Even though on stream I'm selling me, I'm selling myself in a sense, you know. It's a fragment of me. It's not the entirety of me.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that's a really important distinction to make too. Is just like the separation of like art from artists. And oh, just real quick, abracadabra. I'm really glad to hear that. Like, it's so important to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just so interesting for me because it's like I think that a lot of people fall into this hole of like, oh, whatever you see on Twitch or whatever you see on YouTube is like the person, the whole person, and nothing but the person. And it's like, I'm very different than I am when I stream. I'm very different than I guess people would perceive of me, from my games and how like twisted and dark a lot of my work is. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting to like meet people after like only experiencing something that they made.
Well, because I think the only thing that I've experienced from you beforehand was the diving bell.
Yeah, which is a goofy nonsense shit show. That game was so much fun to make, honestly. For those of you who don't know, my last major project was working on Dreadx Collection. I directed The Diving Bell, which is a deep sea horror game, and it was very campy and very like psychological horror. It's very hard to write a psychological horror game in 10 days, but so we kind of ended up with a trippy nightmare like monster movie kind of thing, and I really like where it ended up, honestly.
It was legitimately my favorite one out of that collection.
I'm really glad. Thank you. I love to hear that, honestly, because we had a lot of doubts when we were releasing it, honestly, because it was really like intimidating, being released on a collection with folks like the Semanskys and like Steve Gabry, who made Sally Face, and I was just amazed that like as many people took the time to play the Diving Bells they did, because it was just like, I think the biggest name attached to our project was a guy with like 800 followers, so I figured we would just kind of get like just kind of get the default, like, oh, nobody plays this, nobody knows who these guys are kind of spot. But everybody, like, I've talked to about it, outside of, like, a couple of things that I'm also frustrated about, have been really positive about it. And I'm very glad. It was my first time directing a game, so it was a really, really good experience. And, I don't know, I just wanted to thank everybody for the support on that one as well. It was really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get what you mean about being the smaller person in the credits,
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, shit, not a lot of people are gonna say this, but I'll sometimes stream with Joe Cat. If you do or don't know him, that's fine.
I think so, yeah.
But I'm lucky to be able to call that guy my friend. But I'm definitely in that sense, you know, it is the work of numbers.
Mhm.
It's I'm definitely the smaller, the who is that, even,
Yeah.
I've even been in a couple of his videos on YouTube where he's larger, and it's still the who is that, I may have heard of that name,
Mhm.
but in the end, it's not about the numbers. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have
Yeah,
to be
for
about the
sure.
numbers.
Yeah, and I honestly think that like and this is I went from I think I had around 400 followers on Twitter this time last year, and I think I'm like one follower away from like 1,400 now. But
Yeah,
I think that the main difference it's I don't think that what I'm doing has gotten better outside of like obviously just like growing as a person. I don't feel like I'm like fundamentally different. I think that the only real difference is just that I have people now that I can like bounce my ideas off of, and I can run polls that get more than like 5 votes and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I don't think that there's some fundamental change once you have a following, I guess is the easiest way to put it, because it's like I'm just me. I'm just a guy making games,
yeah.
and I really think that you're doing a fantastic job with what you're doing, and I'm very glad to be on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And
But
but it's interesting though that the way that people will like disqualify folks for not having numbers or
yeah,
whatever just on by default.
the numbers mean nothing. I see people smaller than me that deserve more.
Yeah.
That deserve more than I do in my mind, because they put their everything into it.
Yeah.
But I mean, my partner, she writes, and I was very lucky that she let me read her roughs back when we were just friends, and it's like, I mean, hell, I hope she gets to publish those someday, because she talks about it every now and then. Or I hope that, maybe if they've never see the light of day, they are a great stepping stone for her, and she can, come off of that. Because not every project is going to be a success. Not every project is going to work.
Yeah.
It's the numbers don't matter. Your failures are lessons. You just gotta pick yourself up and keep walking.
Yeah, and it's interesting for me. I actually went through a little bit of that recently. I had right around the time that the collection came out. I had I don't remember. I don't want to like call a guy out here because I don't remember his Twitch handle, and be like I don't want to give him any extra attention. But I think it was like his computer wasn't running my game well, and someone in his audience, I'm gonna put up a slight content warning here, made a joke about the dev's dead friend using the guy's computer to mine bitcoins. And I at that point I kind of tuned out, but I tuned back in to hear his like final thoughts, and he like just kind of shit all over it, and I'm like, it bothered me for like a little while. I remember it would like I didn't want it to get to me, but I really did. Like I was affected by it because this is such just such a personal project for me. And then like I came to this kind of fundamental realization that you really have to come to as a game developer, where it's like there are going to be people who were never going to like your game in the first place.
Yeah.
You have to figure out the difference between when people are making genuine criticisms of the things that you're doing and when they're just being a dick.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, you're going to go insane, because there's a lot of mean people on the internet.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, it's just like, I feel like with everything, it's like there's always going to be your detractors. There's always going to be the people who don't care. And it's like you don't have to worry about them. What you really need to focus on is like the however many people are like the 27 folks in the audience right now watching this stream.
Yeah, it's the people
here to hear you talk.
It's the people who are here. Whoever comes in, welcome them with a smile.
Yeah,
but it's the people that are here. Whether it's 3 or 300 or more, it's
It's about the love.
Yeah.
We're doing the things that we do because we enjoy doing them, or because we feel like it needs to be out there, or or whatever. But it's not. I don't think anybody who is successful in these kinds of endeavors is doing it because they want to be famous, or they want the clout or whatever. You're never going to make it if that's all you're looking for.
Exactly. It's why. I mean, I've seen it. And I've seen those people. They're running on a treadmill.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're not going to
never
go
gonna catch that
anywhere.
dangling carrot.
Yeah, they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to, and that's it's because you've put your heart into this, is what makes it this special, is what makes it have any weight in it. It's the fact that, I mean, hell, like I said, it's not a small thing to hear what might be one of the final collective thoughts a room full of people might have about a person, and yet that is in here, being read by someone that experienced that.
And like I said, that's kind of why I'm doing it. Is it's like, if I can either prevent somebody from going through this or help them through the process of coming to terms with it, like, that makes all of the panic attacks I've had developing this goddamn game worth it. It's I'm putting this out here for myself, but I'm also putting it out there just to make sure that other people know that they're like not alone going through this, and that there is something afterwards. There's a big surprise coming for folks after the final release, and I hope that it kind of puts things in perspective. But
Yeah.
there's it's a secret. You guys will figure it out, once you play the full release. But it's not. This is a slice of life, but it's not all there is. It's not the whole story, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there's one person who can't really tell their side of things. So
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, let's before we've been sitting here like just chatting for like half an hour.
That's fine.
Yeah,
it's,
absolutely.
It's the flow of the stream.
Totally. Yeah, and I'm actually having a really good, well, I guess a good time is an interesting way to phrase it, but I'm having a really I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that I got to come out today and talk about this.
Yeah, we're having a time.
It sure is a time.
Yeah.
It sure is. That's what we're here for. But yeah, so Movement 3 was a little bit rushed. I wanted to get 3 movements out before the demo release, so I put a lot of work into this in a very short period of time, rather than just kind of like letting it stand on the 2 movements that, like movements 6 and 4. I wanted to give people a little bit more, and kind of there was one particular shot that you'll see that I basically built this one in reverse. I wanted to like I had a very particular idea with this one, and I kind of got stuck on it. I like couldn't stop thinking about it, and I just needed to finish it. So this one's a little bit rough around the edges, but it'll be smoothed out as soon as the new movement's released.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what we're playing is a work in progress, so...
Absolutely. Yep, it's a demo.
Yeah.
But, and I'm hoping that I'm able to, touch a lot of this up and create something that's a little bit more cohesive by the time that the full release is ready.
Yeah.
So. I think you got a donation.
Oh yeah, sorry, it just happened. Thank you, Raph, for that. We're just very much talking.
You get stuck in a headspace playing this, honestly.
Comes the $3 dono. Yeah. Oh, did I never change? I was gonna change. So okay. Before we actually step into this, I guess I should. Yeah, totally. I guess I have a little bit of explaining to do. So I mean, I've already stated I'm a weirdo. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah. I used to have this thing, and I was thinking of upping the price or something. I have no clue, but for $3, I'd read fan fiction live.
Oh my god.
Though I'm
Oh my
not gonna.
god.
I don't think I'm gonna be
No,
doing
you're
that
totally
today.
welcome to.
Yeah.
It might be a nice break from the tension,
Yeah,
honestly. So I'm here for it.
we might do that after. But yeah. But that's yeah.
If you have one with 2 parts, I'm more than happy to do some reading.
Oh, I didn't even have to ask, do you want to?
Oh fuck yeah, I
Oh,
want to. My
hell yeah.
girlfriend's asleep right now. I've got all the time in the world on my hands.
Well then.
Oh, before you walk,
Yes.
don't walk yet.
Yeah.
Just move the mouse to the left real
Yeah.
quick. I just wanted to show something off.
Yeah, I saw that.
So this effect was something I built for this movement in particular, and I am just so happy with the way that this like jitter effect looks. And a lot of people like don't even see it, but because they just kind of start walking in a straight line. But I just think it's like the coolest looking thing. Um, it's like there's just a thing that I can basically just like slap on anything in the map now that just like I can just make it like jitter and shake around and stuff like that. And,
Yeah,
I built
yeah.
it specifically for this section to look like nerve endings. Because
Oh,
the dead tree model I had, I was like, man, this really looks like a nervous system. So I this is it's just like a forest of upside down trees coming out of the ceiling. I
gotcha.
was hanging out with my buddy Cyrides, the guy who made he's working on Zera Legends Awaken, and he made Ghastly Goodies for the demo disc, and he was like, what if they were on the ceiling? And I'm like, Cy, you beautiful beautiful genius. And I just love the way that this particular segment looks, but it kind of goes away pretty quickly. So I just wanted to like talk about that for a sec. Oh hey, Square Peg.
Hello. Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, nah, that's
Anyway, yeah, that's that's just like all I wanted to point out is I think that looks cool.
yeah, I mean, it does.
Thank you. This one's a little bit of a sensory overload at times, I will say.
Gotcha. Oh, geez, yeah, that's jittery.
Yeah. I didn't want to make it too nauseating. When you initially walked into this church, you just like couldn't see anything.
Yeah, though since Friday we're getting worried.
Everybody thinks this part's a glitch.
Just the void.
Yeah. Because it's all of these areas you can actually
Oh.
walk from one side to the other, and you get teleported. So you just kind of need to walk in one direction for long enough, and you'll eventually like hit what you're supposed to hit.
Gotcha.
Which is this little scene here. Also, just for those curious, the subtitled poetry written on the screen is what I wrote specifically for the game. Where the stuff that you see in the notes, that's all Charlie. A lot of people were confused by that, and they were like, "Wow, this is way specific. This sounds fake." And I'm like, "No, I wrote that. The stuff that Charlie wrote is the stuff in the notes." So
Gotcha.
just wanted to clear that up because a lot of people
yeah.
get confused.
I managed to pick up on that, but
Yeah, that's what I figured.
oh. On at first, the brush of wings, the words between the words, the brilliance of the light. Sunlight lingered on his lips, danced in his smile, radiated from his eyes, a heavenly gleam that seemed to blot out the endless ocean. The lilting shadow melody that covered the notes of my own swan song.
Yeah, he was an incredible writer. I'm so intensely glad that I have this document filled with his poetry because it's all like really amazing stuff. Again, you have that kind of like sharp edges thing, you know, you just like fall off into nothing.
Oh. Hello. Oh, we're just looking down at...
Like I said, it's a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I need to fix this phone. You might need to do some scrolling at points.
Gotcha. Doesn't really disappear for this long. He can't be gone for real this time. I just can't do this without him. James lives on the same campus. I'll ask him to go knock on Charlie's door. He left a note in our server saying we could split up his stuff when he's gone. Tell your friend to fucking hurry.
Yeah, that was I don't know how to explain Charlie's sense of humor. He was one of the funniest people I had ever met in my life, and and like literally everything he did, even like the tragic parts of his life, he found managed to find humor in.
Yeah.
And it's very very dark, but his first um kind of declaration of intent regarding this whole event was leaving a note on a Minecraft server. Um,
Oh.
that the folks on the server could split up his stuff because he was going to be gone soon, and I don't know how to quite how to process that, and it was just it was it was I remember just like that being one of the things that I felt the most conflicted about for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes something that'll go over the head of everyone.
Yeah, is it's just like how do you process this? Like my friend is dead, and his suicide note is on my Minecraft server. Like that's
Yeah,
just such a ridiculous sentence.
but it's a real one.
Yeah, exactly, and
Like,
that's what's screwed up about it, I guess.
yeah, I was suddenly the only person on Earth, the only person in this garden of weeds, thoughtlessly, autonomously grabbing at the rose that called to me, thinking it was normal. It was beautiful when my blood fell on the petals because it was his color, and how could that be wrong? Cupid's bow bent and slung those words into my bloodstream. I love you. When it comes to lies, the heart-shaped arrow kills just the same as the spade, and sometimes the anger consumes me.
I really did I really like went to town on the sound design in this one in particular. You'll hear a
Yeah,
little bit more of that in a second.
I noticed the no, I mean the creaking is unsettling uh and I think I might get the message it's sending.
I really need to fix this scrolling issue.
Yeah, I mean it's a work in progress, so
Yeah, they'll they'll
yeah.
eventual.
So sorry you guys, Charlie passed away.
That is the actual text message we received, by the way. That was the message that sent me into movement 4.
I mean that brings up the question of how do you tell everyone that
Exactly. That's not an easy text to send.
yeah, and the imagery of being small. Right?
Yeah. I will be back in 2 seconds. My front doorbell just rang.
No worries, no worries. I'll probably just talk about
Yeah,
what I'm feeling here, you know.
yeah, totally. Go for it. Be right
Yeah.
back.
Okay. But makes you feel yeah, no. This definitely like I mean even the door back there, the flickering door, it you know, it was massive. It felt like
I am back. Sorry.
well
There's water leaking out of our ceiling because we just got our air conditioner fixed.
oh, gotcha.
And the guy is back to try and fix the water stain because it's like dripping through the ceiling and there's like this big yellow stain.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's gross. Yeah, this the story about the bird, by the way, the uh the kind of overarching story of this movement is actually true. I had a really traumatic experience with a baby bird at my old house in San Antonio, and it's just like it still fucks me up to this day. It was I I like oh god, I'm like thinking about it and I'm just like ugh. Oh,
Yeah.
Proven Destroyer for context, Charlie was my best friend, and he and I started working on a game together, and this is what's left of that game kind of wrapped up in the experience of him passing away. So
Yeah.
yeah, this if any oh also I should just kind of put this out there if any of y'all need to talk after this and you feel like you have something you'd like to share or something you'd like to talk out or you just need like someone to talk to, my DMs are open on Twitter. So I really like to try and help people through experiences like this, and like, um or I guess like is a strong word. I feel I'm equipped to like help people
Hmm.
through these kinds of emotions, just because, like, that's kind of the ethos of the game. So if you would like to talk, you're more than welcome to message me after this. So
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No worries. A double-headed snake with no eyes, thrashing blindly, purposeless teeth bared. Because 5 years ago I was murdered. Or maybe I wasn't. Is it murder if I provided the knife to let him into my home? Crystal clear, the sun's rays can sear a brand of foolishness into virgin skin, but it always happens as a warm, familiar glow. My life, it seems, is controlled by a single letter of the alphabet. Faith, fall, face, flight, fail, freeze, forget.
So yeah, the this whole movement actually was built backwards from that one shot. I there was it was a piece of photography by I can't remember the photographer's name. I'll look it up later, but it was inspired by that. But I just like the idea of seeing these like upside down buildings that kind of go on forever and like falling down, but also like falling up. Um,
Yeah.
so I actually built that like falling sequence first and built the whole movement backwards from there.
Huh.
Um, but yeah, so this one was a little bit rushed. I do have a lot of things that I want to go back and refine and kind of just make work a little bit better with this one in particular. But I am pretty pleased with where it ended up. So
Yeah, well, you brought up the sound design,
mhm.
and yeah, it's good.
Thank you.
Um, like it. I mean, the fact that it, because I mean, all we heard was what we heard, and I heard like the almost the, I don't know, the electric noise of the phone. I guess you
Hmm.
could say that, and but the I'm assuming it's rope creaking.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Hearing that all throughout, just from the start,
Hmm.
and seeing the, I don't know, seeing the rest of it progress, before it
Hmm.
happens, right?
Exactly, yeah. That was kind of the idea, was to the because the whole time I spent that whole weekend essentially just waiting to hear back, any news, good or bad. But I kind of knew,
Yeah.
he would disappear for days at a time. We used to be in a big group chat together, and he would occasionally send like a message like, "Hey, I love you all so much. Thank you for everything. Blah blah blah." And then would either leave the group chat or would just kind of get quiet for a couple of days, and then he would be fine.
Hmm.
But and when I got the Snapchat from him that Friday, that the basically his the last message I ever received from him, I kind of just assumed that it was going to be another one of those, I'll just be gone a couple of days and everything will be fine. And then the people that he would usually talk to when he was away started not knowing where he was,
Mm-hmm.
and that was when I started freaking out a little bit. And yeah, and it turned out that we were not able to save him tragically, but um, it was very hard um, dealing with the idea that if I had maybe reached out or if I had taken the time to be like, oh, it's just Charlie up to his antics again, maybe things would have turned out differently. But
Yeah.
that's what movement two is for. Um, movement two is largely going to be about like that kind of short period before movement three happened, but it's I I think that that's why I chose. Oh, also, by the way, this is just kind of a fun fact. You can if you pause it while that that like falling sequence is happening, you can actually see the body fall
Oh.
like from the pause screen. Um, I always think that's like kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, it was just a really rough and I feel like to some extent it is really important to have that release and have some like essentially just a project to either channel things through or not think about it for a little bit. But it's a really difficult thing to process, and I feel like if you are a person who's artistically inclined, it's just a really good way to like get it out of your brain and like
Yeah.
into maybe the hands of somebody who can either relate or help or whatever.
Or
Um,
sometimes just
yeah,
casting into the void, you know?
yeah, just putting it out there to put it out there, and that was kind of how this started. Honestly, I wasn't really making this for anybody but myself, but the fact that so many people have been, I guess, for lack of a better term, vibing with it and experiencing it and relating to it even is kind of shocking for me. But like, it just means the world to me, honestly. I'm really
Yeah.
glad that the people who have taken the time out to play it have um, had some sort of effect on them, and I think that that's the best thing I could have really asked for. Is like the worst thing you can have as a game developer is people who don't really feel any way about what you made. So the fact that people either have a reaction like you're having or absolutely hate it uh makes me feel like I'm doing something right, I guess, because the people who have been negative about this game have been very, very intensely negative, and I'm like, I honestly kind of wear it as a badge of honor because I like I was saying earlier, I know that people like that would never have liked it in the first place. So,
Yeah.
the fact that it pisses them off is kind of a credit in my opinion. But
Yeah. I mean, I actually, I can't wait to see the rest of this when it's ready.
mhm. Yeah, I'm really curious to see how you feel about it, considering your opinions on the first one. Like I said, the next movement's going to be like very drastically different from pretty much anything that exists currently.
Hmm.
So I'm just hoping that that's not like jarring or that people don't like uh, feel like the direction that the game is going is like hokey or disingenuous because
Yeah.
um, it gets a little bit more narratively involved or like dramatically involved, I guess.
Hmm.
So it's just I don't know. It's going to be a little different. I think is the best way to explain it. It's just things are going to get a little more surreal and a little bit more interpretive from here on out. And yeah, I am taking my time with it. I've been working on Movement One since like mid-April, right around the time the disc came out. I took a week or so to just kind of like let myself like relax and watch some streams and things like that. And then I was just like, I'm itching. I need to keep working. I'm a
Hmm.
total workaholic. So
I
yeah,
feel
it's
you.
the definitely if you're interested in seeing where the project's going, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I'm going to start posting pretty regular updates again very shortly.
Yeah,
Um,
no, if you exclamation point drowning, you'll see the itch.io page and Aiden's Twitter.
mhm.
So,
And
but
it shouldn't be too long before I have something new and playable. I'm going to be actually going to be looking for playtesters shortly, just to kind of get a better feel for like how people are taking to the new movement because,
mhm.
like I said, it's going to be very different. So
Yeah. Well, I
yeah,
mean, different, like changing it up might fit. right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean it's a different part of the experience. I just don't want it to be like jarring or set expectations weirdly
Mhm.
for the rest of the game. I guess is my kind of biggest concern. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think that's about all I got on this right now. I've got like I'm sure there's a ton of stuff that I've just like completely forgotten to talk about, but you know, I'm glad to have come on and kind of experience this with you. It's interesting, like seeing the way that other people kind of react to something so personal to me, I guess. Um, did you want to like do like a little Q&A thing
Yeah,
or
yeah. Absolutely.
yeah.
So and so when you and Charlie were making the initial
Mhm.
game, what sort of was the what was the premise or
So I actually I guess this isn't really a spoiler. It's a central concept of movement one actually, and this I guess that answers C Witch's question too. Um, the initial game was essentially about an angel. Again, it was like very metaphorical. We had he was a big fan of games like Anatomy by Kitty Horror Show, if you've ever played that, and I Make Saints by Somewhat was another really big inspiration for him, and like he had this idea essentially for um, a person who had passed away um, uh, and was like looking to become an angel and earn their wings by like shedding the parts of themselves that they thought were like sinful.
gotcha.
Um, you would have gone through like a bunch of different environments and like seen all of these like traumatic events, or like the aftermath of these like traumatic events in like a very kind of lonely, empty way.
Mhm.
Um, hold on, I think somebody's yelling real quick. I'll be right back.
No worries.
What's up? Okay, what's up?
Where's that artist statement for reading? Wait, where did you post that? Was that for this or here? So is this I get the feeling this is what you wanted me to read. So well while Aiden's out, we'll read this real quick, yeah? So I'll let you actually tell me if you wanted me to read this out loud first. I would hate to I'd hate to do that if I
Oh,
wasn't supposed to. Oh, welcome back.
I'm back by the way.
Yeah, welcome
Sorry,
back.
the HVAC guy was finishing up. There's it turns out that the hole the hole in our ceiling was caused by the AC pipes unfreezing and just like a whole bunch of water dripped into our ceiling. So that's fun.
Fun.
Thank goodness we're in a rental.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the original game, basically the idea was that in each area, the character would shed what we were calling cruciforms,
Mm-hmm.
which were essentially like the parts of yourself that you let go of because you know you feel ashamed of them, or it's something that like it was initially like very much like a trans allegory, you know, talking about like you know, the parts of yourself that you're almost forced to give up through like transitioning and things like that. Like, you know, you are very much becoming like a new person.
Mm-hmm.
So the cruciforms were like essentially like vestigial body parts that had fallen off and were like reacted as if they had like become so like think of it as if your arm like fell off and suddenly like was like mad that you like left it behind. That's what the cruciforms were. They were like personified like pieces of like trauma or guilt or
Gotcha.
sense of self that would just kind of like become sentient like I guess monsters I guess is the best word for it, but the idea was that you were going to kind of explore trauma through like the personification of it as these like nasty like monster creatures. I guess I can I can probably give you like a kind of general description of one of them. So they were all built after like tarot cards, and the first one that you would encounter is the Hanged Man, and if you can imagine a cross, like an upside down cross, like impale a headless person on the bottom part of the cross, so like if it was upside down sticking up, and then like hook their legs over the crossbar of the cross and then like flip it back over so they're upside down, and it would have like dragged the post through the ground and like followed you.
Okay.
But yeah, it was gonna be kind of, it was like really visceral and nasty. Like we put a lot of thought into the like character designs and things like that. But the idea was that you never died in the game. Like there was no like, oh, you died and go back to a checkpoint. It was always gonna be like the more the monsters are able to harm you, just things get worse. And there would like be certain understandings you'd be able to come to that you just like would be locked off to you depending on how how much you had been harmed by like the parts of yourself that you'd let go.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so there's I'm working in elements of that into Movement 1. I wanted to kind of bring in a lot more of the original ideas that Charlie had wanted to be in the game, but hadn't really had an opportunity till now. But it works perfectly for like the subject matter that the game is approaching. So there's going to be some. You're not going to be alone in the next one, which I think is going to be an interesting change of pace. But I hope it goes well. And then and Movement 2 and Movement 5 are going to follow that, and they're probably going to be a little bit more similar to the stuff that exists now. Like 1 is very much its own thing, but 5 in particular is going to be a huge change up, just compared to like the rest of the game. But I'm trying to think. But yeah, so you would have like gone through all of these different environments. There were these things that wandered around. Some of them would like actively pursue you and try and hurt you. Some of them just like wanted nothing to do with you and were just trying to like become their own thing. And what we wanted to kind of make very human monsters that like hated the player for like real reasons rather than just I'm a monster and I want to attack you kind of thing.
Yeah, there was a reason to their malice.
It was like you had caused these things pain and now they hate you kind of thing. So it's not traditional kind of like Silent Hill, this is a personification of your guilt. It's going to bite you on the legs until you shoot it. I wanted to do something a little bit more, I guess, thoughtful or interpretive would be the word.
Yeah, these, from what I understand, they were a part of you and you cast them out. And now all that's left is malice.
Exactly. It's like it's necessary to change in order to grow, but like what you leave behind will hate you for it.
Yeah.
Is kind of the general idea behind Movement 1 in general. And I also am twisting in an old mechanic that those of you who have played the diving bell will probably get a kick out of, just because I love it for like conveyance purposes. But you'll see what I'm talking about when it comes out.
Okay.
Did anybody else have questions? Like I said, I'm more than happy to talk about my process and like any questions y'all have about the games and whatnot. Just because I feel like there's a lot to say and I never quite know where to start.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if we want to give people time to think, I was asked to read something from that previous donator.
Totally, go for it.
It is titled Self-Portrait Artist Statement Retrospective. But I very much skimmed it here, so. Alright. Self-portrait artist statement retrospective. At this point in time, my life is heavily defined by what has occurred in the past. My younger self has partaken in many things, tried many activities, dove into many hobbies, made numerous mistakes and errors in judgment. He has embarked on so many different journeys, naive to the impacts or ridiculousness the process imparts. Oftentimes, said ventures fall short. One loses motivation, projects fail, fizzle out, or fade into obscurity. Said past self was also the subject of intense scrutiny and continued mistakes, chief among them in middle school with a decidedly popular culture. In order to fit in, one has to follow the guidelines of what makes someone fit in to the standards of the popular kids. Play basketball, be athletic, get into big friend groups, play the next hottest video game, drop said video game after a few months for the next big thing, swear, complain about teachers, attend socials. My past self, accustomed to a wide diversity of activities and acceptance, was in for a rude awakening and did not take this culture well. The natural response against this culture that pushed on all sides for conformity was resistance, but it came at a price. While the past version of me did continue on doing his own thing, he suffered from a myriad of difficulties. Social connections, close friends, and even racial stereotyping and slurs. Combined with the busy work of school and homework, while it was not a nightmare, it was far from an ideal world. Suffice to say, I've come quite some ways from my past self in middle school. I applied and got into a high school with far more accepting and open environment, relieving the massive burden of continued resistance middle school faced. I began to focus more and hone some skills and interests developed from previous years. I've grown into a more mature person, wiser and keener of worldly developments outside of my current proximity. All of these things are products of the lessons of the past mistakes, leading to present wisdom and insight. In a sense, the past self of my middle school years is sending messages to my present self, holding up a mirror and transmitting lessons through the power of reflection. The world may change or stay constant, but I for certain change. Past me would not wholly recognize present me from the changes that have occurred. But that other version of myself, distanced by time, still sends messages across time to this unknown figure, and my present self picks up these messages and uses it to develop. This triptych seeks to try and capture the retrospective essence of the past version of myself communicating into the future. And I'm sure that this process is ongoing and will continue with my present self. Writing this statement, sending a similar message to the unknown version of me years into the future.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I dig that. Like that's like that resonates with me a lot. I spent a lot of time being a real dumb kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a lot more sense for me now that I'm 24 and have like come out of both closets. But it's just like I feel like I think about this a lot. I have a lot of like really neurotic tendencies, and I tend to get very existential. But I it's weird for me because I find myself so dependent on like the shit that's happened to me in my life, like to figure out where to go sometimes. But at the same time, it's like you can't let that be the only thing that guides you. It's like you have to learn from these things rather than just kind of reveling in them. I have a lot of like flash because I feel that I also had I was like a weird kid, and I didn't have the easiest time back in grade school, but like it's I there's this sense of perspective that's missing when you're little, and it's like the problems that I'm experiencing are like the worst thing that's ever gonna happen to me, and but you're like 14 at the time, and nothing worse ever has happened to you, so in your perspective that's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And or the best thing ever. But it's like it's interesting to me the way that growing up kind of trivializes a lot of those experiences that felt so strong to you when you were little. But that's not to say that they aren't just as valuable. I mean, like, Charlie's passing is, I think, probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But the worst thing that's ever happened to me has become the best thing that's ever happened to other people. You know, I had some folks who literally said in their letter that this game had saved them, had like they were, you know, looking for some sign that things were like gonna be different at some point, and you know, playing this, they were able to kind of realize that it's not just them going through these things, and that there is somewhere to go from here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, you know, but I feel like I owe a lot of like who I am to where I was, but at the same time, like being who I am because of where I was doesn't really mean anything if I don't move forward with it and become someone new and grow and develop because of those experiences, I guess.
Yeah.
Agent RAF is asking if you
Oh.
wanted to like show the image that we're talking about.
Right.
I'm also a huge fan of triptychs. I'm just like I'm a really big fan of Francis Bacon, and there's the I don't remember I think it's three scenes from a crucifixion in particular. The one that he did after his friend passed away in a hotel room was really interesting for me. I have a little art, like coffee table art book of Francis Bacon's work.
Gotcha.
Oh, well, you pull that up, Sea Witch. You said you don't have to answer this, but how did you feel again while starting this project? It was interesting for me because I tried so hard for so long to like start this project. Once I got into it, I just started going into it. You know, I started putting like hours and hours into it. But like there was so long where I would start the project and then I would be like, no, this is shit. I need to start over, and then I would get discouraged and step away from it for a month. And then the day that I the day that I made Eulogy, it was like I said, it was like 3 hours over the course of an afternoon after I got off work on one Friday back in November. Um, it was like opening the floodgates on like so many different emotions, and just kind of allowing myself to feel things that I hadn't felt in a really long time because I'd just kind of been bottling it up. Um, and like I said, you know, that was a really rough 3 hours, and I was still very manic after I finished. So I just started flinging the link at people. I think I messaged like just a bunch of my streamer friends and some of my developer friends, and I was like, hey, can somebody tell me if this sucks? And then everybody played it, and they were like, oh, hey, this is really dark. Are you okay? And I was like, no. And then I realized that I actually was okay. I was feeling great for once. You know, I
Yeah.
suddenly had this outlet for like all of these things that I'd been feeling for so long. Um, and I specifically labeled it Movement 6 when I released it because I wanted to set up some level of accountability for myself to like actually finish it, you know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, if it's just Eulogy, then it's just Eulogy, but like if it's Movement 6 Eulogy, all of a sudden what the hell are the other 5 movements about?
Yeah.
Because I needed to tell the whole story and I didn't know if I was going to be able to commit to it. But once it got on the demo disc, I was like, all right, damn, I guess I have to finish it now. I have a really bad tendency to like get halfway through a game and then stop. I think I probably have like 10 or 15 games that I'm just like never gonna finish. But
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Oh no, I'm a Sea Witch. I'm totally an open book when it comes to like questions and stuff. I'm really like not uncomfortable talking about any of this if you have questions. Sorry, Jay, what were you gonna say?
Oh, no worries. I mean, I was gonna hop back just a step and
Yeah,
talk
totally.
about the growing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, cause yeah, what I was, I can look back on and continue to grow from that. And I've talked about this before, but I was a vastly different and more venomous person
Mm.
when I was in middle school. I wasn't deep into it, but I was an incel in the sense of I hated because I could not have,
Mm. No, I've been
which I was a fucking middle schooler. What the shit?
there. Yeah, no, I feel
But
you.
like it's the fact that I ran into that ideology and it for whatever reason stuck in my stupid little kid brain for a bit, and I grew out of it, thankfully. You know,
Yeah.
I got to high school and I realized that's not doing me any favors. Let's get that out of here.
Yeah.
But
No, I feel you actually. I went through a very similar thing. I think it was my junior year of high school. I never got like Haiti. I never blamed my problems. I never got to like that like incel mindset of like blame like externalizing whatever
Yeah,
problems I was having. Thank goodness. But,
Yeah, I thankfully, I was not allowed social media
oh, oof, yeah,
until freshman year of high school, and
probably for the best.
further so that I was such a shut-in that I kept it all internalized.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's the difference between like a lot of people who have that mindset is like everybody's either like, oh, okay, this is wrong for me in my life, and it's somebody else's fault, versus this is something that's wrong for me in my life, and it's my fault, but I can not do anything about it, so I'm just gonna fester. And I feel like those are both like equally rough perspectives to go into.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on, I think Gray said something in the chat. I just wanted to say. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's interesting for me because you know, like everybody's high school literature teacher was just like, oh, you know, in The Great Gatsby, the eyes are watching Jay Gatsby because he feels guilty about the lifestyle that he's living. And meanwhile, if you actually spoke with most authors, they were probably just like, yeah, it was just a pair of eyes. Like, I mean, that's obviously a bad example because that's totally what it is. But
Sometimes the curtains are blue, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes a chair is just a chair or whatever. But like, it's interesting to me because I'm really not thinking about symbolism that much when I've been working on this, because weirdly enough, level design is actually like one of my weakest suits. So I've just kind of been making what feels right, and looking back on it, and like, it's interesting that you bring it up because it's like I look back on it and I'm like, oh, I totally get why I did that in particular, but I just like wasn't thinking about it at the time. So like when people have brought it, sometimes a spade is just a spade. That's the phrase I was looking for.
Yeah.
But like people have brought it up to me on Twitter and they send me like screenshots of something and they're like, oh, was the flashing room in the train station with the boxes was clearly supposed to represent, you know, like being so close to the you know, the actual meaning of something, but never actually being able to like see it or touch it because you can't get the door open. And I was like, I literally had not even thought about that, but my God, you are so right. That is exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even realize that I'm like doing these things until after I do them a lot of the time, and that's why I'm so worried about like taking so much time with Movement 1, is I don't want to like force perspective or imagery or anything like that. I just kind of want to let it flow. But I'm feeling really good about Movement 1. I just hope that the stark differences are like not too jarring for people, I guess. But yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate that attention to detail, because like it's I am too close to this project, I think, a lot of the time, so I really can't see it objectively. I'm either really, really pleased with it, or I absolutely hate it and I scrap it and I start over. So it's like, it's interesting to me to see the reactions of people who have absolutely no context, who I haven't been talking to about this for like months or whatever. So yeah, thank you so much for saying that. That really means a lot. I love hearing like people's theories and noted like observations and things like that about the game, because it's just so, I feel like it's like so personal to so many people for like completely different reasons, and it resonates with me. I'm glad we could help Abracadabra. That makes me really happy.
Yeah.
I again, that's kind of why I'm working so hard to make sure that this game gets finished, is because I want people to know that there is something better out there.
Yeah.
And that, you know, life doesn't end when when your friends leave, or life doesn't stay down. You know, you never stay down. It's there's more to it after this. And you know, actually, just because y'all have been so cool so far, I'm gonna kind of like expose a little bit of I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a spoiler. There's gonna be a Movement 7, and basically what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna build a little set It's going to be in color. It's going to be like the only thing in the game in color, and you're going to just be able to walk around this little peaceful environment. And I'm going to just kind of every day I'm just going to write like a positive thought I had that day, and just kind of add it to a little database that I can use VA Rest to like pull from. And just kind of, every day you'll be able to open the game and maybe read a new like thing that I went through that made me happy, and like just keep moving to like show people that it does keep moving forward, that it doesn't end with the eulogy.
Yeah.
There's more
after
there's
that
more to it. Yeah.
is acceptance, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I can't stand to leave it at the eulogy, because it doesn't feel right. It's not, I didn't stop there, so why should the game, but yeah. Sea Witch, what other things do you have for this? Yeah, so movement 1 is again going to be very scary. It's going to be very much a here's a gut punch on why the trans suicide rate is so high. Here's an unfiltered look into the kinds of things that trans folks go through on a daily basis. So it's going to be a lot scarier than the other ones. Movement 2 is going to be very surreal. It's going to be, based around grief and regret, and kind of a larger sense of like trying to come to terms with why these kinds of things happen. And especially when it's somebody who's like so close to you, because he and I literally talk like every single day. This isn't just like somebody who's like a friend. He was my best friend. But and then movement 5 is I literally cannot tell you anything about movement 5 without spoiling the entire thing. But it is going to be like a kind of retrospective summary of everything that you've seen so far, leading up to walking into the church. Essentially, so it's gonna like movement 5 ends where movement 6 starts. But yeah, that's literally all I can tell you about movement 5 without giving away the huge like thing that is going to be different about it, and that is going to make that one in particular a very interesting conclusion to what exists. But yeah, that's the one where if you write in a letter using the Letters to the Wanderer link on the main menu, you'll be able to potentially see your own letter in the game. I've had a couple of people who have written like troll letters and are like, essentially trying to get stuff past me, and they haven't been able to, and I'm just like, I caught you. But
yeah,
all the ones that are like genuine and are like real are going to be displayed in movement 5. So
yeah,
and all the not so nice ones are going to be displayed somewhere else. But
yeah.
you guys can tell on that one. I'll maybe do an expose on that at some point, but
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, of course, Abracadabra. I'd love to read whatever you have to read whatever you have to say. So definitely go check it out. The link should be on the itch.io page as well. If you don't feel like downloading the whole game, which you should, because support indies. But no, yeah, I don't know. Jay, did you have anything?
I mean, all I can say is that even though, I mean, I've not lost anyone close to me. I think I said that before. I've been extremely lucky
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
be able to not, and so being able to sit here, and even though I have not felt these things viscerally, I have not had them happen to me, I have not been able to, I guess, for lack of a better word, experience that.
Which I'm deeply grateful to hear that you haven't experienced that, because it sucks.
Yeah.
It just sucks.
Yeah.
It's really rough.
I've had thoughts about that happening, but I'm eternally thankful that it hasn't.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad to hear that.
Being able to almost find a cathartic comfort in it, it really is something, right? It's, I don't know, it's how, how do you how do you tell someone that this person that you all knew is gone? How do you deal with that empty void? You know?
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring that up. I think that one of the most interesting things that I've heard people say about the game in particular is somebody described it as like, I think they called it a wandering simulator. Like they said it has all of the symptoms of a walking sim, but with a different diagnosis.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really interesting thing because it's very much not a walking sim. It's more personal than that, I think, and I don't know, I'm glad that's come across so far.
But I mean, I can see where they're coming from, I guess. You know, but no, it's human. This game is frighteningly human.
Thank you.
So much so that I have trouble finding words. You know, it's.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people have that reaction. Interestingly, it's just like, I've noticed that the general structure of streams that I've been a part of, like I haven't really, but this is my first time just like coming on stream to talk about it. But like when I've watched folks who have played it who like don't know me, it's always interesting to see like everybody. There's like a 30-minute segment after they play the game where it's like they make some attempt to talk about it, and then they just like can't find the words for it.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting how like people are just not like able to like, you know, they don't know how to talk about these things. You know, and I think that that's probably a good part of why, you know, these kinds of things happen is just no one has an outlet to talk about it. You know, no one knows like what the proper procedure is for when you just feel like crap and like you feel like the world hates you, you know? So, I wanted to try and do a little bit of the talking for them and show people that like they're not the only ones going through this, and that you know, hopefully it's able to help.
Yeah.
Thank you, Inkle. That's really well said. Thank you. And it's interesting that you use the word comforting because a lot of people use that word and it's not something that I was expecting. I feel like the game is so like uninviting and bleak. But the fact that people find comfort in I guess the solace of like knowing other people have like been through this is very sad, but is kind of interesting for me because like it's just not something that I was expecting at all.
I mean, it's like it's so I have seasonal depression, and possibly even further than that. I should probably get a second opinion at some point. This is a years-old diagnosis.
I can definitely recommend it. Being properly medicated literally makes such a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. But the it's getting told that I had that was both frightening and extremely relieving in the sense of I'm not alone. It's real, right? It's not just this abstract thing that I don't know about that I can't voice. Because as soon as you realize that someone else has that, it becomes a lot easier to put it into words. Because they can speak the same language that you are. So I think that's what people are finding.
It's almost like getting that diagnosis. That's a really interesting perspective that I like totally had not even thought about. Is it really is like a complete, you know, it's so important for some reason to have like a name to put to a face when it comes to like mental health. Like I personally I have very, very bad depression. I have like some pretty severe neurotic tendencies, and I have anxiety, and like I'm a chronic insomniac, which basically just makes everything else worse. So that's great. But it's just so interesting for me because it's like, you know, before I knew that any of this was wrong with me, I thought I just had to suck it up and that life just like was like this. Same thing with my disability. I have fibromyalgia, and it was just like I was in pain all the time and I was tired, and I thought I was just like lazy or whatever. But it turns out that I just have a medical problem.
Yeah.
So the idea that this is kind of like getting a diagnosis for an experience rather than a condition is really interesting for me. I had like totally not even thought about that until now. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I mean, no problem, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, it's gonna resonate a lot more with, you know, someone that has experienced this. I'm lucky to have not. So I can sit here and I can say what I think and have my thoughts and try and understand as much as I can. But in the very end, and this is something I learned from getting diagnosed, you're not going to be able to have someone fully understand unless they've also, you know, also have experienced that to an extent, right? It's
There's like no common ground to stand on when you're having a conversation like this with people who are either just situationally or willfully ignorant of the ramifications of what it's like to like go through something like this.
yeah. I mean, okay. Let me preface this with, I love my parents. They are nothing but supportive. They support me doing this. They have, sure, we've had our differences every now and then and all that, but in the end, they've helped shape me into what I am.
Yeah.
But when before I was diagnosed, I don't know, it felt like there was this endless void between me and them of, I can't say what I'm feeling. I can only abstract about it. I can only talk around it. Because this is just me. I'm wrong and something's not right. And it's the sense of, I think it might be a similar sense like that of, this is gonna resonate with someone who knows this a lot more. I can only sit here and speculate, is in the end, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of why I want to approach Movement 1 the way that I do. Like, I totally feel you there. It's like, I think that the monsters and the real monsters in the closet are just kind of like the stuff that we just don't understand. Like, I'm fully aware that a lot of, so I have a medication that I take for both psychiatric and physical issues that, if I ever have to take a high dose because my disability gets really strong, sometimes I have hallucinations. I actually, like, I get a lot of like death visualizations, and I see monsters sometimes. It's really not a good headspace to be in. But like it's interesting for me as somebody who's, you know, like looked into mental health and like looked into the ways that like, you know, my condition affects me and the mindset that I'll be in when I experience those kinds of things. It's like I'm fully aware that these things that I'm seeing are just like manifestations of my own anxiety. But it's interesting for somebody who I don't know if y'all have seen Jacob's Ladder, but it's interesting to see the way that perspective changes with knowledge, because I feel like if I wasn't so self-aware and like in tune with the ways that I experience my own mental health issues in regards to my own, you know, like issues and things like that, that I would probably be a lot more fearful of it and a lot like weaker to it by extension, if that makes sense. Like I feel like that kind of fear and the things that I worry about when I get into that state would start to like run my life a little bit.
I
Um,
I totally get that though.
yeah,
Ev
it's a really shitty feeling.
Yeah, it's if because when I wasn't in tune, when I after my diagnosis, it took a bit. You know, I had to come to terms with it. It wasn't. It's not immediate. It never will
Yeah, of
be.
course.
But before that, I didn't know myself to an extent. I didn't know what I was.
Mhm.
Every winter, I didn't know who I was. Not I knew who I was. I knew, you know, I'm Jay Domit. Here I am. This is me. But I did not know me, if that makes sense. And then diagnosis, medication. For this last year I didn't end up taking my medication during, but it's because I've had reactions to the medication that make me feel just different, not better. And this is not going to work for everyone. This will not, in no way, by God, please go see someone, get medication,
Yeah, getting help is super
Get-
important.
get help. This was a slow process for me, and I still sometimes do need that medication in the winter because that's when it's the worst. But I was able to come to terms with what I was, and that no, it was not wrong. I was not incorrect, or I was not different. It was just a part of me. It is something that I will have to. I have to carry the weight of my arm, I have to carry the weight of my legs, and I have to carry the weight of my seasonal depression. Everyone has to carry that. Everyone has to carry their own thing.
And it's interesting that you bring that up in that particular way, because that is exactly what I want the cruciforms to be. Like in movement one, I was talking about the monster kind of monster-esques that are going to exist, is like that conceptually. Is the process of coming to terms with that is externalized rather than internalized, and that's what the cruciforms are. Is it's the parts of the parts of yourself that you had to come to terms with. It's much easier to kind of combat a force that, like, it's much easier to feel like you can do something about a problem when the problem isn't something that is inherently part of you. And I feel like we kind of compartmentalize those parts of ourselves into almost a separate thing.
Yeah.
And and that separate thing is what I'm trying to represent, is essentially like the dead skin that falls off, after the shower. It's the nastiness that we're specifically like working. It exists because we're fighting against it, but the fact that we're fighting against it means that there's like something that we can do. But it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
It's just a question of like how you deal with it.
Yeah, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be with you. It's what you do with it.
Exactly. And that's why I started this project, or why I finally like got around to making this project, was to kind of prove that, is that it's like, making this game isn't going to bring Charlie back, nor is it going to make me feel better about the fact that my best friend died. It's just something that needs to be done.
Yeah, it's something that it's not going to fix the problem in any sense of tangible progress. It's going to just provide comfort, I guess.
Exactly. It's a way to move forward. Whether or not it's progress is yet to be seen, because I haven't finished it. But it's I'm moving, and I think that that's the important thing, I guess, is the easiest way to explain it. Is it's like the times that I felt the worst when I, in the wake of Charlie's passing, was the times that I wasn't doing anything, was the time that I spent, crying in bed, making my college roommate really uncomfortable. That was when I was feeling the worst, was when I didn't think that there was anywhere to go from here, and there was nothing that I could really do to make myself feel better or have, some sense of closure. But like, I'm almost afraid to finish this game because then what,
I mean,
but we'll see. Maybe I'll just keep making movements till I die. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I think what it might be is this is the way that you acknowledge the thing, you hold it in your hands, and then eventually you're able to just set it down and walk away, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I haven't lost any. I've lost friends in different senses, right? And there's some that I've had some that were abusive. That's the aftermath stuck with me for years and still tickles the back of my brain to this day. But it's it's the sense of sometimes you take the steps not to fix the problem or to sometimes the problem can't be fixed. Sometimes the problem is something you have to live with. You can only seek comfort and help about it. And that problem, sometimes you have to be able to hold in your hands, acknowledge it, and work to be able to set it down and walk away.
Yeah. That actually brings up a really good point. I always see this metaphor, I did a lot of I went through the self-help circles and the the survivor groups and things like that, and I always heard this one metaphor the pain of grief is like a balloon inside a box, or there's a thumbtack on the side of the box. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's basically there's a balloon inside of a container, and every time it bumps against this one particular area, that's pain. It's like the pain of grief.
Yeah.
But as as time goes on, the balloon starts to shrink and it doesn't bump into that one spot as often. And I thought about it for a really long time, and I think that metaphor is kind of fails because the grief never gets easier. It's your loved one isn't any less gone.
Yeah.
I think that what it really is that the box gets bigger. I think that the fact that we are still here, the fact that we're continuing to move, means that we're still growing. It's not that the balloon is shrinking to the point where it'll eventually just hopefully never bump up against that spot again. It's just that there's so much more space in the box.
Yeah.
That we just I feel like I don't know, I feel like it minimizes trauma, and it's we're more than just a balloon bumping around in a box, where there's other stuff in the box. There's childhood memories and going out for drinking with your friends and making something cool, just living your life. And I think that the fact that because it really doesn't get easier, to some extent. It's when I have grief episodes, I don't know if it's PTSD or what the hell it is, but I'll occasionally just bust out crying my lungs out for no reason.
Yeah.
Just thinking about Charlie, and it just gets overwhelming, and that never gets easier. It sucks. It's practically embarrassing sometimes, but it happens less frequently, but it sucks just as much. But
Yeah.
I think that's proof that the box is getting bigger. I'm not having these episodes once a week. I'm not suffering daily because of this. It's starting to become something productive or helpful to someone other than myself, and I think that's kind of why I've kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but I don't think that trauma is something that ever really goes away. I think that we just kind of grow around it and learn from it and become new people because of it.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's like if you were to leave an axe sticking out of a tree. That tree is gonna keep growing if you don't cut it down. It's going to grow around the axe. The axe is going to become part of it.
Exactly. you know, the axe wasn't part of it in the first place, but the tree doesn't die just because somebody, you know, cut a hole in it.
Yeah, it
You know,
keeps on going, and it's not gonna stop until its end.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, no, I think that that's a really potent metaphor. It's fascinating, and again, I love watching streams of this game because, and like being here for streams because it just brings up so many interesting ideas. Like I so rarely get to have conversations like this anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, thank you so much for having me on. This has been really
I'm
really good.
Yeah, no, I've this has actually been a really cool experience. This is it was yeah, it was very real. It was, you know, it wasn't, punches haven't been pulled here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's but all the same, it's been good.
Yeah, no, it's cathartic. It's a good conversation to have, I think, for a lot of people because you just don't get to have it too often, you know.
Yeah, I mean, hell, I remember some points when I was younger, and it wasn't aimed at me, but, you know, don't talk about these things.
Mhm.
You know, but it's, I mean, now look at us, right? It's,
Yeah, exactly.
It's, what's after this? You know, now it's fine and open to talk about these things.
Exactly, yeah.
And
And I mean,
so-
it's opened up a dialogue. So
Yeah, I can only hope that it gets better.
yeah, me too. And you know, I think it is. I think the fact that we're sitting here today doing this stream means it is getting better. So
Yeah.
you know, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
Yay, real stream. This is fun. So I do actually have to split shortly. My girlfriend just woke up from her post-work nap.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really glad I got to like hang out with you and all the fine folks in the audience. This has been a really good time.
No, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate that you're willing to come on and do this, because this is
Absolutely.
this has actually been
problem, of course.
a really cool experience. Not only being able to talk with the developer about the game they made, but being able to also have these very serious conversations. I like to think that these streams can, you know, touch on these serious conversations or other serious conversations, and it's always things like this are always a nice thing to have, in my opinion. So,
Gotta break up the other kinds of streams somehow. So
yeah.
just like tons of fun time and then just like sad, super deep conversation. No, but
it's
seriously though,
It's cathartic, so
absolutely.
right.
Again, thank you so much for having me. I do
Yeah.
actually have to split.
yep,
But,
thank you for coming on. You go.
Absolutely, thank you for playing.
Yeah, you go take care of what you need to do, man. So,
Absolutely.
All right, have a good one.
Cool. You too. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll see you around.
All right. Talk to you later.
Well, everyone, that was Aiden, and that was the Drowning Machine. So yeah, we are ending, but I want to thank everyone for coming on. I want to thank you guys for, you know, your maturity during this, and I want to thank you guys for just, you know, coming on and listening. These kinds of streams are strange. They're not gonna be comfortable all the time. But the fact that we can sit here and talk about this is actually something very special. It's something that I'm willing to talk about more often than this. But this was, I don't know. This is something that was I don't know. I'm running out of words, right? It was just cool. It was so cool. It's more than cool. you know, because it's humanizing to be able to feel that, to be able to see these things, to be able to talk about them. And I can only hope that maybe these conversations brought that comfort forward to not only me, but to you guys. So please check out The Drowning Machine on itch.io. Please check out Aiden on Twitter. I think I might highlight this just so it stays up on the channel. I'll probably ask Aiden before I do, just to double check and make sure that's all good, but I think I'll be leaving this up, because this was a really good stream. I don't know. It's been super cool. It's been just, I don't have the words. But I don't know. It lets you know that things are, even though they might suck right now, are gonna be fine. So with that, I think I'm gonna throw you guys at someone else. So we'll see what's going on. Zach's still going. We'll throw you guys at Zach. Go go from this and have fun, right? So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you coming in and hearing what we had to say. And I will see you guys on Wednesday. We'll be back to our normal on Wednesday, so I'll see you then.